Well, before I end this epic video series of epicness, I want to do a few things first. First of all, I want to talk to you about the timeline theory. Huge fans, like myself, want to know how each of these games correspond with each other, and what order they come in. If you couldn't tell by the last 6 videos, there are a lot of Zelda games, and it's very hard to come up with a stable timeline theory. And if you're curious by the subject, there are many YouTube videos that talk about theories, and I will link my favorites here. I encourage you greatly to watch them if you have time. But here is the most understood Zelda timeline theory right here. So weirdly, many theorists believe Minish Cap is the first game in the series. And why is that? Well, for one reason, the Triforce isn't mentioned as the Triforce in the game. It is referred to as the Light Force, or the Triumph Force. This may be because it's so back in the beginning of Hyrule's history that the mythology around it hasn't been passed on as much. The biggest reason why many people view Minish Cap as the first game is the chest shown in the beginning of the game. The chest contains all the monsters that would plague Hyrule for the rest of the series. It also makes sense why all the races in the rest of the series are so normal with the monsters and just they think that they come with the land. Also, Link is given his real hat at the end of the game, and people think that was one thing that will happen to all the Links to come after that. The next game will make the timeline a little bit harder to understand, and that was the Ocarina of Time. When OOT came out, Miyamoto said that Ocarina was the first game in the timeline, and that made sense since Minish Cap was released after Ocarina. What you see through the ending of Ocarina is Zelda sends Link back in time to relive his childhood. This creates a split in time from the Hyrule that Zelda made Link leave behind, and the Hyrule that Link has as a child. So, child timeline is usually referred to as Hyrule A, and while adult timeline with Link leaving behind is usually referred to as Hyrule B. If you're really confused, I would suggest looking up those videos because that's one of the harder concepts to grasp in Zelda timeline theories. Obviously, Majora's Mask follows up Ocarina since it's the direct sequel and Link is living his childhood he missed in Ocarina of Time. Technically, Majora's is a mid-quel, to say, instead of a sequel, since its events kind of take place in between Ocarina of Time. But I digress. It takes place in the Hyrule A timeline. Twilight Princess follows up Majora's Mask, and there are a lot of reasons why this makes sense. For instance, it's debated whether Hero Shade is actually the Hero of Time from Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask. Also, the Howling Stones are the same songs that are learned by the Hero of Time in Ocarina and in Majora's. A Link to the Past and its obvious sequel follow suit after Twilight Princess. This is easily explained with the opening cutscene of A Link to the Past. The Oracle games in Hyrule A is the characters Twin Rova, who are enemies in Ocarina of Time. But why they're in Hyrule A is because they are still alive and kicking if Link goes back into the past and they would never have to be defeated in the Spirit Temple. So in Hyrule B, where they were defeated in the Spirit Temple, they are dead. Wind Waker is a pretty easy game to place because in the opening cutscene it describes Link from Ocarina of Time defeating Ganon, then vanishing. And he vanished because he went back as a child and he was doing the events of Majora's Mask. Phantom Hourglass obviously takes place after Wind Waker because it's the direct sequel. Spirit Tracks, on the other hand, take place about 100 years after Phantom Hourglass. Reasoning behind this? Because of characters like Nico and Lineback 3 that appear in the game. Now we finally come to the original Legend of Zelda, which is ironically near the end of the whole timeline. In this Zelda, you actually explore the ruined kingdom of Hyrule, and why is it ruined? Well, the flooded Hyrule might explain that in Wind Waker. And since Adventure of Link was a direct sequel that obviously explains the placement of the game in that timeline, is after the original Legend of Zelda. This is the most bare bones probably description of the Zelda timeline that anybody has out there. And I wanted it to be that way because I wanted the video series to be more about the history in Zelda and how it impacted video games. The only flaw in this thing is I don't really know where to put Four Swords and Four Swords Adventures. I have not figured out a really good solution that really makes sense for me, so if you have one, put it wherever you want in your head, okay? There's a few of them on YouTube, but I just don't get it in my opinion. So I was thinking, well, I went over the history of these Zelda games, but I never told my opinion about these Zelda games. So, I figure, why not just tell you what I think personally on a game-to-game basis, what I think of them. The Legend of Zelda. Amazing for its time and truly groundbreaking, but hard to finish since you'd have no idea what to do. Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link. Really the black sheep of the series, but for the most part, it is a good game. A Link to the Past. Really the best 2D Zelda game to exist and truly groundbreaking for its time. Awakening. A good way to follow up on A Link to the Past, and I spent many a night playing this back in the day. Ocarina of Time. It truly is the best Zelda game to date. I know it's the obvious choice, but it really is if you look farther into it. And of course your opinion may be different, but that's my opinion. Majora's Mask. I really understand why people love Majora so much, but I could never get into it. I don't know why, I just can never do it. But it is a pretty good game for what it is. The Oracle games. I really love these games, well at least ages. I never played Seasons as a kid. Whoops. Wind Waker. It was a very underrated game, and it's probably my second favorite Zelda game of all time, just because of the animation and the art design, the graphics, the music, all of it's great. Minish Cap. Minish Cap was epic and truly underrated also in my opinion. Twilight Princess. When I played it and beat it, I thought it was my favorite Zelda game of all time, but now that I look back at it, it doesn't have the replayability that Ocarina or Wind Waker did in my opinion. Phantom Hourglass. Fun, but slightly annoying, going back to that same dungeon over and over again and doing time puzzles. If there's anything in the world I hate time puzzles. Maybe that's one of the reasons I don't like Majora's Mask, but it was a fun game nevertheless. Spirit Tracks. Yes, it's true, I only beat the game yesterday. That's why it took me a little bit longer to make this part than I thought, because I was trying to finish it up so I can give it an honest review. And my honest review is, I personally love the game and the train track system, but I have the same issue I have with Phantom Hourglass. I hate going back to the Tower of Spirits. It kind of annoys me. So that's it, folks. You've learned about the history of Legend of Zelda. You know my opinion on everything Legend of Zelda. I love everything Zelda, so it was really fun making this, and I can't wait to do another VG's Nostalgia series. And the next series I want to do is Metroid.